Moving on from question 10 over at Logical Reasoning drill set number 4 to question 11, we've got our highlight tool ready to go, and we're going to read the question stem first to identify the task and highlight that task for clear reference as we work through the problem. So question 11 reads, which one of the following can be properly inferred from the management consultant's statements? So we're going to just highlight properly inferred, and this is that type of task where we don't have a conclusion. We are just being asked to find something that must be true based on the statements of fact. And when you have an inference task, it's important that you use the highlight tools efficiently to differentiate through different colors the statements of fact so that you can identify what exactly is being stated as you cross-check the answer choices and eliminate the need for notes or potentially conditional logic diagramming. So starting from the top, the management consultant states, executives cannot produce a change in a corporate culture unless the staff is willing to follow suit and implement the change. And we're going to just highlight that sentence and go, okay, we've got a statement that says you need the staff to follow suit and implement a change in corporate culture in order for the executives to produce a change in the corporate culture. Got a broad idea. And again, I don't want to be conditionally diagramming anything like an unless statement. So we then will switch our color so we can differentiate the next statement, which says, but no one will be willing to implement the change unless they trust the executive's judgment. So we're going to just highlight up to no one, understanding that this is saying that you won't be willing to implement the change without trust in the executive judgment. So the executive's judgment or trusting it is really important. Then we'll switch to our yellow. We've got one way to get the staff to trust the executive's judgment is for the executive to convey respect and admiration for the staff's work. And that can only happen if the executive knows the staff and their abilities well. And I would argue that this is really just one statement about how gaining the trust can happen. And so if the executive conveys respect and admiration for the staff's work, it's possible that the trust will be given. But that only happens if the executive knows the staff and their abilities well. And this is just one way. It's not absolute. It's not an absolute statement, and really something that we should avoid conditionally diagramming anyway, because it's just saying it's a possible way. It's not sufficient. It's not necessary. It's just a possibility. So now going to our answer choices, we need to cross-check them against these three statements, looking for something that guaranteed has to be true based on the structure of the statements themselves. And hopefully through the highlighting, we're going to be able to focus in on specific terms to compare against the relevant orange, pink, or yellow statement of fact. So choice A, executives cannot produce a change in corporate culture unless they know their staff and their staff's abilities well. This is part of the one-way statement. Knowing the staff and the staff's abilities is just one way to do that change. It's not the only way. It's not a necessary way. It's not a sufficient way either. So we can eliminate choice A for that reason. It's just not definitive enough, and it's not something that must be true. So now moving on to choice B. If an executive conveys respect and admiration for the staff's work, the staff will be willing to implement a change in corporate culture. Well, again, this is just something that could work. It's not something that's guaranteed to work. So same idea, looking back at the yellow highlight, we can eliminate choice B for that reason. Then choice C, a corporate staff will not be willing to implement a change in corporate culture unless the executive can convey respect and admiration for the staff's work. Well, again, this is just one way. It's not necessary, saying that they won't be willing to do it without this way. So once again, just focusing on that yellow statement, we can eliminate choice C. Then choice D, the staff of a corporation must trust the judgment of an executive if the executive is to succeed in producing a change in corporate culture. Well, we're finally out of the yellow highlight. And we see that no one will be willing to implement the change, meaning a change in corporate culture, unless they trust the executive's judgment. So they must trust the executive's judgment in order to implement that change. And choice D matches the pink and orange highlights almost exactly, just as a reverse paraphrase. And by breaking them out in individual colors, you should be able to see that more clearly. Now, just for the purposes of this video, we'll eliminate choice E as well. At least some staff members will trust the judgment of an executive who knows them and their abilities well. Again, we don't know that at least some will do it. It's just that it's one way to do it. So By focusing just on the yellow for the other four answer choices and recognizing the D really does match the true conditionals, you can work through a relatively complex conditional style inference without actually having to draw out those conditional statements in a time consuming fashion on your official LSAT. Thank you for watching this logical reasoning drill set number 4 explanation video from the content over at lawhub.lsac.org. If you enjoyed the tips it contained, please consider liking the video or subscribing to our channel so that you'll be notified when additional videos are produced by my guru. Also, check out the description below because in it you'll find additional links that will help you as you continue your LSAT journey, including links to full sets of full prep test explanations produced by my guru. And remember that while you're preparing for the LSAT, it's supposed to be hard.